Hey everybody, and welcome to our yearly breakdown of Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. We call this our Halloween Horror Nights Survivor Guide. We've been basically doing this every year since 2014, and I know that there's a lot of guides and things out there talking about Halloween Horror Nights, and they're all great, but we always like to share our own, talking about Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood, your best tips, basically how to conquer the event with or without express, with or without early entry, and all of that, fun stuff. So we'd like to give you a breakdown of everything at the event this year, lots of really great franchises and IPs and originals this year, and then kind of, what you can expect if you go this year and what's going to be popular, or at least what we think is going to be popular, what you need to start off your night with, to order what you should go through the houses, things like that. So we're just going to break it down. We always do this as a blog post, so make sure you head over to our website to check that out. We'll put the link in the description here. It's all written out for you. And we started doing a video overview a couple years ago just to kind of give those of you who like video content a little bit more detail, just a little bit more insight into our thought process, things like that, and why we really put this together every year. So right at the top, I'm just going to say that this information is subject to change after opening night or after opening weekend, and it will change. We do talk about early entry houses, things like that. Those houses have not been confirmed yet. So we're basically basing this off of what we know from the last few years as far as early entry times. So those will possibly get updated at some point, either this week or next week, and definitely after opening weekend if there are any changes. And if we need to update the times on our survival guide, we certainly will do that. So we'll update that after opening weekend, and then we'll kind of let you all know. So we will be there on opening night, Thursday, September 3rd. We're also doing early entry on that first Sunday as well, and we'll be kind of following our own survival guide on that Sunday. So we'll kind of run the gamut here of experience for Halloween Horror Nights. So we're going to go over our tips for making the most out of your experience, do's and don'ts, and more importantly, what should be your plan of attack for the night. On our post, we also do have all of the links for Halloween Horror Nights, how you can get your tickets, get your express, early entry, the new tour that they have for the houses, things like that. And we'll basically get into all of that. So as I mentioned, our survival guide, kind of off the top, it does require a little bit of hustle in the beginning of your evening, just depending on where you're going first, whether it's lower lot, whether it's Curious George, whether it's the upper lot, things like that. So sometimes you do have to, maybe walk a little faster than you might normally just to get everything in, but we'll kind of get into that. So as far as event dates, basically Thursday through Sunday, starting on September 3rd, and then starting on September 30th, the event will run Wednesdays through Sundays all the way through November 1st. So onto our tips. Most of these kind of haven't changed throughout the years. We've added to these over the years. We've updated a few things, but just kind of our tips here. Number one is to buy your tickets online. The event's going to sell out. It's 2026. Don't show up to the ticket booth and expect to buy a ticket. Just go on your phone, on your computer, go on the app, buy your tickets. Super easy. Tip two is to use Express if you can swing it. Obviously, that's a big ask because it's definitely not cheap. But if you do Express, this is really the easiest and best way to make sure that you can get everything done in one night. You don't have to hustle through the event. You can take your time. You can be leisurely about it, and you can enjoy all of Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood. If you can't, then we've got tips for you. Tip three, if you can, avoid going on a Friday or Saturday night, especially Saturday nights in October. We don't go on Saturdays in October. We're obviously busy with other Halloween events during that time anyway, but just keep that in mind. Saturday nights in October, probably not the best bet if you are making one and only visit. If you got frequent fear, then, go and enjoy. So this is a big one. We've noticed this a lot more over the last few years, but don't be late. We see people going all the time, showing up at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you're not going to get everything done unless you have Express or unless you have frequent fear. So if you're only going one night, the event starts at 7. You should be lined up no later than 6, even earlier on a Friday or Saturday. This is one we added last year. If you have the after 2 pass, don't show up at 5 o'clock. You're basically wasting 3 hours of park time. So get there at 2, enjoy the park for a few hours before early entry. And if you just want early entry, just get the early entry tickets. They're significantly less than the after 2 pass. Early entry is $25 to $30, and obviously the after two pass is quite a bit more expensive than that. Next, ignore the rides. This is kind of controversial. People kind of push back on this every year, and I get it. But you're there for Halloween Horror Nights. You can come back most days of the year and you can ride The Mummy or The Simpsons or Transformers with no wait, especially during the week. In the off season, if you have an annual pass, you can go on the rides whenever you want. If you have visitors coming from out of town, totally get it. Get the after two pass. We did it last year with our son and his wife. So that gives you 3 hours of early entry time or park time before early entry. That's a really good way to do the studio tour. You can do all of the attractions, things like that. But one caveat that we'll mention for this year, Super Nintendo World is open during Halloween Horror Nights this year. Previous years, it was only open for the After 2 and for RIP and Express. So this year, it's going to be open for everybody. So if you haven't had a chance to experience Super Nintendo World yet, we're going to give you a pass. Keep in mind that Mummy, Transformers, and Mario Kart all have single rider lines as well. So that is an option for you. So speaking of the After 2 pass, they also do have an After 2 pass with Express. The really cool thing about this is it actually gives you Express for all of the attractions from 2 to 6. So basically when the park is open for daytime hours, and then it kind of resets after Halloween Horror Night starts. So you can use your Express on all the attractions during the day, and then you can use the Express on the attractions for Halloween Horror Nights. So you kind of get to double dip your ride experiences. So for, Mummy, Transformers, Mario Kart, Forbidden Journey, things like that, you kind of get to double dip your Express, which is kind of cool. Get the app. Pretty self-explanatory here, but you can have your tickets on there. They have wait times, things like that. So make sure you get the app. This is one that we always keep on every year, and we still see people doing this every year. Wear comfortable shoes. You're going to be walking a lot during Halloween Horror Nights or at any Halloween event for that matter, or at any theme park. We see people wearing huge, boots and Doc Martens, and we've even seen people wearing high heels. Just wear comfortable shoes, get some good walking shoes. Your feet are going to thank you. As you get older, you start to feel those aches and pains that, I wore these shoes to an event. You start to really kind of feel. So just trust me, as a person that's been there and has worn uncomfortable shoes for things like that, get comfortable shoes. Back to avoiding the busiest nights. Halloween Horror Nights is busy every night. As I mentioned earlier, some nights are kind of just less busy. But basically, our assumption is to skip any night that is not included with the regular frequent fear. So those days are October 3rd, October 9th, 10th, 16th, 17th, 23rd, and 24th. If you have just the lower tier frequent fear pass, you're blocked out those days. Those are probably pretty good indications of days you should avoid the event. And then finally, if you are local to Southern California, we highly recommend getting the Frequent Fear Pass. We get it every year. It's nice to just kind of drop in for a few hours when we're in the area. If we've been doing other haunts, we'll kind of drop in after. So if we're doing, for example, Burbank haunts or the Haunted Hayride, we'll just kind of drive over to Universal afterwards and pop in for a few hours to, get a snack or get some scares or do a house or two. We also do the Pantages. We have season seats. So we usually do Tuesday nights during our season seats. It's the cheapest night. But during Halloween season, we actually switch them to Thursday nights because we'll go to our show and then we'll pop into Halloween Horror Nights on the way home for a bit of fun, which is kind of nice. So it's just really nice to go multiple nights, enjoy a few houses, hang out a bit, and then, head out. All right, so this year we've got a couple of different early entry options for your Halloween Horror Nights experience. We're just kind of basing this off of what we think are going to be the more popular houses this year. Obviously, we don't know until opening weekend. Obviously, last year for Terrifier out in Curious George, we knew that was going to be huge. Five Nights at Freddy on the lower lot, we knew that was going to be huge. But this year, I have to be honest, it's kind of based on house locations more than the IP. So it's kind of up in the air. But we think we've kind of figured it out. So based off our experience, we've been going to Halloween Horror Nights for years. I mean, I went to the first one back in the 90s when they had 16 shows. We've been doing this guide for 12 years now. So we kind of know crowd patterns for Halloween Horror Nights. So we've basically got two different options for early entry. One is starting on the lower lot, so Stranger Things, Ozzy Osbourne, Prince of Darkness. If those are your priority houses, those are the ones you want to make sure you get to. And then we've got another one, which is basically Hellraiser, Evil Dead Burn, which I don't really think is going to be that popular, but it's right next to Hellraiser. And then Centers, which we think is going to be one of the more popular houses this year. So we've got two plans for early entry depending on what your priorities are. The good thing about the frequent fear pass, to kind of circle back on that, is you can do it multiple times. So you can see which one actually works best for you in the long run. Also, I know a lot of people are saying, Stranger Things isn't going to be that popular this year. It's Stranger Things. It's going to be popular. This is the last year for Stranger Things, presumably, as of right now, and I think it's going to be very popular. Also, it's going to link to probably be the house that opens earliest for early entry on the lower or upper lot. So if you're doing early entry, chances are you probably want to start there and get Stranger Things done as early as possible because, again, it's going to be pretty popular. So as I mentioned previously, we don't know what houses are going to officially open for early entry or what times. We're basing this on last year's lower lot times, and then we've got two plans, like I said, one for Stranger Things and Ozzy, and one for Hellraiser, Evil Dead, and Sinners. So if you're doing early entry, you can pick up your early entry line route starting at 3 o'clock if you're already in the park at either the front gate or the Universal Plaza. Again, this is based off of the last 3 or 4 years. I don't see them changing this up at all. Pretty confident this is going to remain the same. If you have a daytime ticket or annual pass and you're already in the park, you can get your early entry starting at 3. If you have the after 2 ticket, they'll just basically give you your early entry wristband when you enter the park. So as soon as you get your wristband, then you're going down to the lower lot first. If you're down here early enough, you can just chill out, grab a ride on Jurassic World, Mummy, Transformers, while you wait for the Stranger Things queue to open. Single rider, as I mentioned, is your friend. One note I will say for this year is it does look like Jurassic World is not going to be open for Halloween Horror Nights. It was not included in the list of attractions on the press release. So it's possible they're just using that key for Dead, Dead, or Deadest for that house that's in that location rather than for Jurassic World. That might change, but according to the press release, it does not look like Jurassic World is going to be open for Horror Nights. So if you want to do Jurassic World and you have early entry, do it before the Stranger Things queue opens. That way you can get a little cool off before you get in line. So if you're going to head down to the lower lot, and Stranger Things early entry line will basically start to the left of Transformers, near Super Nintendo World, and the extended queue for Transformers. So these are our recommended early entry times for the lower lot. And again, these are based off of last year's times, the times that the house is open. So Stranger Things early entry begins at 5 or began at 5 last year. We're pretty much assuming the same pattern this year. So at 5 o'clock or shortly thereafter, and then Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is right behind Stranger Things. Last year, the early entry time for Scarecrow began at 5:45. We're assuming the same is going to apply this year, just because it's not on stage. You don't have to worry about the queue clogging up for daytime visitors. So basically, Stranger Things followed by Killer Clowns would be our recommendation. Last year, The House Behind Mummy, which was Jason Universe, began early entry at 6:30. So we're going to assume that Ozzy is going to start around that same time, so 6:30. So after Killer Clowns, we would suggest heading over to Ozzy Osbourne to get in line for that, for early entry, to which we assume will be at 6:30. Even if it's before 6:30, get in the line, and then you can get through it pretty quickly. The last house, Dead, Dead, or Deadest, the house that was in that location last year, which was Wyatt 6, opened for early entry at 6:45. So again, we're assuming that the early entry will be at the same time for this year, which will be 6:45. So feel free to do all 4 of those houses before heading up to the upper lot. So if you want to skip one and get up 2 centers before early entry ends, perfectly understandable. Totally get it. Head back up. So skip one, head back up to the upper lot and do centers, and then you kind of head back down towards the lower lot later in the night for your last house. So as I said, feel free to do all 4 of those houses before heading up to the upper lot. So if you follow the guide so far, you basically finished 4 of 8 houses. As I said, if you decide to skip one of the houses on the lower lot to make it up to the upper lot before 7, we suggest getting right in line for centers. It's going to be one of the more popular houses of 2026. So based on last year's early entry, we assume that Centers is going to open for early entry at 6:30. Fallout, which was in that location, opened at that time last year. And then after Centers, the entrance for Kill Senior is right there. Early entry for this should begin at 6:45. So we suggest doing that right after Centers. So after Centers and Quinceañera, it's time to take a little bit of a break. It's, maybe 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock by this point. All of the general crowds are now shuffling in. Get some ice cream, have dinner, snack, whatever you want to do. And then head over to Terror Tram, or what we are calling the Terrifier Tram. So for this one, you want to definitely make sure that it's dark before you get in line, which is why we're saying to take a breather, take a break before you get in that line, because you do want it to be completely dark. If you do have Express, if the line is short, you can do it twice. But just remember, there's a ton of walking on this one, so you may not want to do all of that walking twice. Then lastly, after Terror Tram, you're going to head over to Curious George to finish out your last two houses of the night, Hellraiser and Evil Dead Burn. Depending on wait times, you can do one or the other. There's not really a set order for these two. Just get in whatever line is shorter and then get in the longer line, however you want to do it once you make your way over there. All right, so that's our recommended early entry for Stranger Things and Lower Lot first. So now we're going to do our recommended early entry if you're doing Hellraiser, Evil Dead, and Sinners first. So same process, you're going to pick up your wristband on the upper lot at either the front gate or the plaza, get your wristband, hang out on the upper lot until 4:30-ish when early entry opens or when they open the queue for early entry. You can go do the studio tour if you have enough time, Fast and Furious if it happens to be open, Simpsons, stuff like that. Now, based on previous years, there's actually two entrances for early entry for Curious George, one near Hollywood and Dine, which is the one that everybody sees first. But they also will allow you to enter through Hogsmeade, subject to change. They say that every year that it's not an early entry spot, but they end up letting you through there anyway. So depending on where you are in the park, you can use that entrance as well. Again, if that doesn't happen this year, we will certainly update. So out of the two houses that are in Curious George, Hellraiser is definitely going to be the more popular of the two houses, so make sure you head there first. I actually think Evil Dead Burn is probably going to be one of the least popular houses at Halloween Horror Nights this year. The movie was not very popular. It wasn't very well received. I don't really think it's going to be a very popular house. We did watch it last week. It's my least favorite Evil Dead movie by far. And there wasn't really anything in it that I thought, that should be in a Horror Nights house. But I still hope the house is great. Crossing fingers that it's going to be good. So after Hellraiser and Evil Dead Burn, you should very easily be able to make it over to Sinners prior to early entry starting at 6:30. In fact, you might even be able to do one or two of those houses twice before you're heading back to the theme park itself. Just depending on times, because I think more people are probably going to go downstairs for Stranger Things than Hellraiser, at least right away. But I know a lot of people, including myself, are looking forward to Hellraiser. So then you'll go through Sinners, which I mentioned early entry starts at 6:30, and then you should be able to get right in line for Quinceañera, which should open at 6:45. And then after those two houses, just like with our original plan, we have the Terror Tram coming up next, or Terrifier Tram. If it's not dark enough yet, wait to do the Terror Tram until it's completely dark. So grab a snack, grab dinner, hang out in scare zones, have dinner in Hogsmeade or Springfield, and then get in line for Terror Tram as soon as it gets dark. So now you basically completed 5 of the Horror Nights attractions. You're going to head down to the lower lot. So we do have a recommended order, which is Ozzy, Killer Clown, Stranger Things, and Dead, Dead, or Deadest. But that's really only because that's the shortest walking path. Honestly, when you get down there, it's just going to be 9-ish, probably at the earliest, maybe 8:30. So just check the wait times and get in the shortest line, and then kind of go through the 4 houses down there. That's really going to be your best bet. So like I said, we do have a recommended order, but if one has a shorter wait time, just get in line for that one that has the shortest wait, and then you're going to basically finish your night down there anyway. So like I said, our recommended order is Ozzy Osbourne, followed by Killer Clowns, followed by Stranger Things, lastly Dead, Dead, or Deadest. And again, that's just the least amount of walking. So if you have time and energy after you finish all the houses, feel free to take a ride or two after you complete all the houses, or do your favorite house again. We've done everything, just repeat as you want to. So lastly, we do have a recommended house order if you're not doing an early entry. We do recommend getting it if you can, but we understand it's an extra cost. It might be sold out on a particular night already. But if you do want to get it, make sure you get your tickets as soon as possible. So here's our house rundown if you're not doing early entry. First and foremost, make sure you're at the park before 7, as we mentioned in our tips. They will sometimes let you in the park a little bit prior to 7 if you're not doing early entry. So just make sure that you get there early enough to where you're in the park right at 7 for when those houses open. So if you're not doing early entry or recommended order, you're going to start on the upper lot with Sinners, which I think is going to be one of the more popular houses at this year's event, followed by Quinceañera, because the entrance for Quinceañera is basically to the left when you exit Sinners. And then you're going to head out and do Curious George. I think most people are going to head downstairs first and foremost for Ozzy and Stranger Things. So you're going to head through Hogsmeade and go through Hellraiser and Evil Dead Burn. Whatever light is shorter, again, go ahead and hop in that line before it gets too busy. Before heading down to the lower lot, our recommendation is to do Terror Tram. So if you're getting there at 7, by the time you do the first 4 houses, it will be dark enough for Terror Tram. So get in line for Terror Tram. Also, Terror Tram usually closes at 11:30, and you're going to basically be spending the rest of your night on the lower lot anyway. So before you head to the lower lot, take a break, grab dinner or some HHN food, check out the scare zones, hang out for a bit before you head down to the lower lot. And now you basically got 4 houses to go. So we have a recommended order for these ones as well. It's basically the same order as I previously mentioned, which is the least amount of walking. But just check the wait times. Whatever is shorter, just get in the line. The way the crowd flows, times fluctuate up and down. So if you get down there and Killer Clowns has the shortest wait, then get in line for that. If Ozzy has the shortest wait, get in line for that. Just check the wait times when you get down there and kind of develop your strategy as you go through. But once again, the least amount of walking is Ozzy, followed by Killer Clowns, followed by Stranger Things, followed by Dead, Deader, Deadest. So food, strangely enough, as soon as I was editing this video, the email with all of the food options came through. I wasn't going to include it, but I'm going to go ahead and include it since I haven't rendered the video. So food-wise for Halloween Horror Nights 2026, we've got Surfer Boy Pizza on the lower lot at the Studio Cafe. They've got the pizza, Italian sandwich, and peanut butter bites. At Sinners at City Snacks, which is right outside of Sinners, basically when you enter the line for Quinceañera, we've got Remix Burnt Ends, Pick Poor Robin Clean, which is a chicken wing, pecan and whiskey bread pudding, or as my daughter-in-law from Canada says, pecan and whiskey bread pudding. I Lied to You, I Love the Blueberry non-alcoholic drink. So ginger ale, kind of a mocktail. In Sinners Club at Mulligan's Bar, which is right around the corner, we've got Prohibition Punch. We've got I Lied to You, I Love the Bluesberry. I Lied to You, I Love the Bluesberry non-alcoholic mocktail, Juke Juice, and a Pale Moon Ale Shandy. Down in the lower lot, we've got Ozzy's Bar, so we've got food and drink down here. Bark at the Non. Funny. Crazy Train Chickpea Curry Burrito. Prince of Darkness Cake. I Just Want You and Tacos. Mr. Crowley's Curse. Bark at the Moon Mule. Ultimate Cinnamon. And Blizzard of Ozarita. These names are crazy. Clown Cafe located on the lower lot. Death by Cheese Stick, Bloodbath Brisket Fries, Clown Cafe Cauliflower Bites, which we've heard from the tasting preview that they were really good. Gut Wound, Root and Evil, and Art's Killer Cold Brew. We've also got Art's Clown's Tinsel Bar, which is up on the upper lot, basically where the Chucky Bar was the last couple years, basically outside of Waterworld. Silent Night Slasher, Art's Killer Cold Brew, Mistletoe Massacre, Frosty Night. We've also got the Dia de los Muertos back again. I think this is the 4th or 5th year. We've got the beef burrito tacos, the walking taco, the esquites, pineapple spears. We've got the drowned bride, spicy margarita, mango-rita, michelada, frozen margarita, pepino margarita, and piña margarita. I'm going to say, regarding Dia de los Muertos, I like the theme, but it hasn't really been that popular over the last couple of years, and they haven't really changed it much. I'd really, really love for them to expand the food here in Hollywood and get some of the food booths like they have in Orlando. You could put 4, maybe even 5 of them in that area. I think that would be a really great thing. Hopefully coming soon. Down on the lower lot, we've got Studio Scoops featuring Hello Kitty Chucky Strawberry Cheese Sundae, which I think is the same as last year. Killer Snacks, which is located in Curious George next to Hellraiser and Evil Dead Burn. Skin and Chips Nachos, which is pork rinds nachos with nacho cheese, are basically nachos with pork rinds, which actually sounds kind of cool. And Open the Box Donut Bites. Evil Dead Burn, which is located on Mummy Eats, which is the polar opposite end of where that house is, Severed and Smoked Chicken. And then Tower Snacks, basically in the Fortnite Mayor's Scare Zone, Slurp Juice, 0 Point Pretzel, the Final Peel, and Battle Bus Dog, which is the large hot dog they have every year. New this year, super excited for this. Treehouse of Horror. So in the Springfield restaurants, they're going to have Treehouse of Horror themed foods. So sloppy dough, ground beef with a tomato chili topped with Fritos. Worst brat ever. So bratwurst in a pretzel roll, topped with duff cheese and sauerkraut. Road scrapins, French fries topped with white country gravy, cheese, fried chicken, and crispy onions. Ooh, sounds good. Pumpkin spice cold boo, forbidden pumpkin donut. And then they've also got the raspberry bloody cookie, which is at various locations. And then they've also got stuff out in uh, City Walk as well. So at some of the restaurants, they've got some themed foods, and then obviously merchandise everywhere. So yeah, lots of tasty food to try this year. As of right now, there's only one show scheduled for Halloween Horror Nights, which is the Purge Dangerous Wonders. There have been rumors of another show, but it's not happening in the DreamWorks Theater. I don't know where they would actually put another show, to be honest. Perhaps in Hogwarts or something like that. I don't know at this point. But but as of right now, there is only one show at Halloween Horror Nights. It's just kind of crazy to think that when they did the first Halloween Horror Nights in the 90s, there were 16 different shows, if you believe it. And now there's one, which is kind of crazy. We also do have the scare zones and interactions. So Hackers is the chainsaws in the front of the park. Fort Nightmares is in the middle, where basically they always have the fire and things like that. That's the Fort Nightmare scare zone. El Circo de la Muerte is outside of Quinceañera on French Street. There's also a kind of walkthrough gauntlet in that scare zone, which we noticed during our visit last week, which is kind of cool. Murder of Crows is going to be near the Universal Studios store. And then finally, Shriek of the Banshees will be near Fast and Furious and Hogwarts, kind of where Murder of Crows was the last few years. And Blood Bog will be in front of the Terror Tram as you're walking into that area. The Death Eaters have also been announced as they are coming back. It was in the press release, so that will be another kind of scare zone interaction that they have going through Hogsmeade. They're also doing a Unmasking the Horror Tour add-on. So this is a behind the scenes look during the day that you can go and check out. So they're doing Sinners and Quinceañera. So we're doing this add-on on the 12th, which is the second Saturday of Halloween Horror Nights. So we'll be checking out that tour. It's actually not offered the first weekend, so I think that's the second or third day of doing those tours. So we'll definitely be having some updates from that tour. So we're definitely looking forward to checking that out. I've done some tours with John Murdy in the past, so they're always really great. Obviously, I don't think John's going to be doing all of the tours. They'll probably have tour guides, but it'll be a nice way to get some behind the scenes looks at some of the houses, which is great. One of our other favorite things we always do, like to end with, is Chainsaw Chaseout. It's one of the most fun things they do. So basically, at the end of the night, in order to get everybody out of the park, they basically round up all the characters from the scare zones and the terror tram, and they give them all chainsaws, and they chase you out of the park. That's basically what it says, Chainsaw Chaseout. So they chase you out of the park. It's super fun. We always like to do it at least one night during Halloween Horror Nights, sometimes more. Sometimes we'll even designate a night that we'll go to the park at like 11 o'clock just to do Chainsaw Chaseout. One of the great things about the frequent fear is we can kind of base our night around, what we want to do, take a little nap, and then wake up and go super late to do Chainsaw Chaseout. So we'll do that at least once during Halloween Horror Nights. We do every year. All right, so that wraps up our survival guide for Halloween Horror Nights 2026. We hope you enjoyed. Again, we'll be updating our posts throughout the event with any additional tips, changes, and times for the early entry houses, things like that. And once we kind of see what's popular and what's not, we'll do some more updates as well. A lot of things you don't really know until the event actually happens. So stay tuned. We'll probably have more updates throughout the run of Halloween Horror Nights. All right, thanks everybody. Take care.